I'm Caroline Routh. I'm the executive producer for Musical Theatre Network. Let's be honest, musicals have the word commercial written all over them. They account for nearly 60% of ticket sales in the West End, and in 2012 alone they generated nearly £325 million in revenue. On the other hand, musicals in the subsidised sector tend to be seen as a natural mix. There are, of course, honourable exceptions, venues and companies commissioning and developing new work. But the scene is predominantly Sondheim and the old revival. There is little of the experimentation and commissioning in musical theatre that has been seen so much in, say, new writing. However, there is strong evidence to show that where significant time has been spent developing new musical theatre within the subsidised sector, the results have benefited both sectors. It is, after all, a partnership where the collaboration between artistic and financial risk can pay some of the greatest dividends. Jerry Springer, the opera, started in a studio in Battersea Arts Centre, a small commission for the composer and a crate of beer for the audience. It worked its way through various stages of development before being taken on by the National, which in turn led to a transfer to the West End, where it ran for nearly 2 years. Matilda, already mentioned, spent 7 years in development and cost between £150,000 and £200,000 before the decision was made to take it to full production. After its run in Stratford, it then cost a further £3 million to take it into the West End, but it broke even within 6 months and continues to sell out. And thinking of smaller shows, Blood Brothers was created by Willie Russell as a school show in conjunction with Merseyside Young People's Theatre. It was then developed to run at Liverpool Playhouse. Its first attempt at a West End transfer only lasted 6 months, but was taken out on a 1-year national tour, came back into the West End and remained there for 24 years, which made it the third longest running musical production ever. So I would say yes, in many ways musical theatre is an ideal genre for collaboration between the subsidised and the commercial sectors. It can be hugely creative and groundbreaking. Its starting point can be purely artistic rather than financial. Yet alongside that, it still has the potential to make vast amounts of money for its investors. What's not to love? And yes, of course, you can lose vast amounts of money, but for those with a venture capitalist mindset, that risk is balanced by a potential return. But the collaboration isn't perfect. Commercial producers tend not to put money into early stage development of new musicals. They prefer, understandably, to wait until it has been tested in workshops, through rehearsals, in front of an audience. The subsidised sector, and that would be the point when they pick it up, the subsidised sector takes the upfront risk. But in our current financial times, as we're all aware, that is becoming increasingly difficult to do. So the subsidised sector experiments less, and fewer new shows are developed. And that's not just a bad thing for the subsidised sector, but for the commercial sector as well, as ultimately the latter is far less likely to find another Matilda or another Jerry. Could we make it perfect? For me, the real need now is for commercial investment to come at a much earlier stage, to seed fund different projects at the very start, or to give new composers an opportunity to take their work to workshop stage. Can the case be made that supporting 10 ideas early on is an effective way of spreading financial risk, that it increases the likelihood of finding something great at maybe not a particularly high cost? If big corporations invest millions in R&D because it makes business sense, what are the parallels in new musical theatre? And who is putting forward that argument? But I think there are some real opportunities at the moment. I see those in the new generation of commercial producers coming through, who are already working incredibly creatively in the ways that they look for investment and funding, in the ways that they themselves are seeding ideas and identifying new artists, the way they're looking for partners across a range of scales and art forms to work with them in the development of that work. I see it in the Arts Council's recognition, at last, that musical theatre has artistic merit, that it is in fact a viable art form, and in the way that it is now resourcing the sector and making new partnerships possible. I see it in the recently announced tax break on theatre productions for both the commercial and subsidised sectors, in the range of artists making smaller pieces and looking for different ways of presenting and performing what they make, of crossing art forms and scales. I see it in the regional venues becoming increasingly skilled in co-producing and in finding the ways to bring a multitude of partners together to take work forwards. What we do with those opportunities, think that's for after the coffee break.